In my hands, just off screen, I have the exclusive A1. I couldn't help myself. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Please ignore everything about the composition, lighting, literally moving in a handful of days, and so this probably is going to be the last video on the main channel. I've been thinking about doing a Q&A, never really done one of those, so if I get enough questions, feel free to leave a question below in the comments. But anyway, I want to talk about the Sony A1. Obviously, we're seeing a ton of videos and stuff come out about it, and everyone's getting super hyped, and that's great. So I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for this, but I want to talk about why I am incredibly disappointed in this camera, as with many other cameras that continue to come out. All right, so usually I save this for the end of the video, but most of the time people get angry beforehand and start hating before they even get to the end of the video and hear this. So let me just say up front that yes, this camera is going to be amazing. People are going to make amazing stuff with it. It is certainly not going to be a flop or a garbage camera unless there's some sort of issue that we all don't know about yet. And yes, this camera packs some incredible specs. So my big disappointment is in the details. Why does every camera mess up codec options? There's been a long debate about the 30-minute run times, which I still think is ridiculous, but for most people, especially if you're not shooting like events or anything that you would need to straight record for over 30 minutes, that's whatever. I'm not really talking about that, even though that's still on the list of annoyances. No, the thing that I really can't understand and sets me off is external recording. For years, we have seen so many cameras continue to be announced, and they list all these amazing features. 8K, 4K 120, 10-bit, 16-bit RAW, all that stuff that they throw out in the marketing materials when they're first showing it to get you excited, and then they really start to break down how you can actually get that. Now, specifically to the A1, the only way that you're getting any sort of RAW output, and the fact that 16-bit RAW is amazing, the only way you can get that is through an external recorder. And I posted this on Twitter this morning, and a good amount of you seem to agree that the issue with this is not only the fact that you have to now buy a much more expensive recorder and usually proprietary media for that on top of media that you're going to need for internal camera use. But my biggest issue with external recording is you are putting your very, very important image signal in the hands of an HDMI cable. And we all know how finicky and how easily broken, accidentally unplugged, whatever HDMI cables are. I think any filmmaker, camera operator, content creator, whatever, will tell you that if they've been doing it for a number of years, how many times have you been recording something and something happens to your monitor and it just randomly goes out? Now, for me, like, my monitor's just a monitor, so if the battery dies right now, if the cable just faulty and fails or breaks or gets caught on something, whatever, like, I just can't see myself for a couple of minutes. But the file isn't going to go corrupt, it's not going to stop recording and all that because everything is being handled internally. A lot of times it seems, and again, I'm no engineer, or so if someone can explain this to me in the comments, by all means, feel free. I'll pin that to the top, and this can be a great education moment. But how is it that you can fit the technology to record 16-bit RAW into a monitor, which, if you remove the actual monitor component of it, is about the same size as probably the logic board, motherboard, whatever, and chipsets that you have inside of a camera? Why can't you just like fit that into the camera itself? Now, I have pulled up here B&H's spec sheet for the Sony A1, and it looks very similar to every single other Sony, Canon, Panasonic, Fuji, whatever codec list. And it's not that it's like confusing, it's just too many options and not enough options that are like the best of all worlds, which I get. There's no perfect camera out there. I'm not saying that. The reason that I fanboy so much about my Blackmagic cameras is because for a sub $2,000 camera, whether you have the 4K or 6K, you get 12-bit raw 6K or 4K, 6K in my case, internal recording with no limit. I've literally recorded for over 2 hours, zero heating issues whatsoever, and arguably one of the best codecs out there. And in the menu system, you get a couple resolution options, but then you pretty much just have two options: constant bitrate and constant quality. And the only reason you choose that is depending on how big of a file size you want. Again, if you're doing VFX stuff, you're probably going to do constant bitrate. Constant quality is just going to basically depend on the scene and how complex it is. But your resolution never changes, your color bit depth never changes, your noise, your white balance, like everything else stays the same. And while yes, the Blackmagic also has different variations of ProRes in there as well, if that's your fancy instead of B-RAW. And even after its release, they went from 1080p 120 FPS to 2.8K. And guess what? It's still 12-bit raw internal recording at 2.8K. And so that way, even if I'm shooting my A-roll at 6K 24 or 6K up to 50, I could then shoot 2.8K 120. Obviously, I'm going to have some resolution loss there, but in terms of color grading and pushing the image to match my 6K raw file, it's all 12-bit raw. It's all going to match just fine. Just feels like anytime I use one of these cameras and I change it to a different shooting mode, I'm getting enough of a different image to really just bother me. And I get it. Most people are content creators. If you're vlogging, if you're not even that, if you're doing like cinematic type stuff, they can match. And again, going back to what I said in the beginning, I'm not trying to pounce on what this camera is capable of, because the people who buy this will arguably make way better stuff than I do. So for me, it's not a matter of having an issue with what the shooter is going to be able to be capable of. It just doesn't make sense how a $2,000 camera can shoot internal 6K raw, no recording limit, but a 6,000 or 3,500 A7S III or a Canon R5 or pick pretty much every other camera out there costs 2-3 times whatever more and can't do any of that internally. But as always, that's just my opinion. I want to hear yours because I want to constantly learn and grow. Maybe I am super wrong here. Yeah, I'm curious if you guys agree, disagree, and let me know why down in the comments below. But yeah, that's pretty much my rant and kind of my disappointing idea anytime I see these new camera releases. Am I excited for it? Yes. Am I going to get one? No. If any Central Ohio content creators out there pick this up and want to collab, then by all means, I'm more than happy and excited to play around with it and see if I'm totally wrong and looking too much into it. But yeah, thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.